When I turned 55, I thought my chances of finding love again were long behind me. My name is Linda Carter, and for years I had settled into a life that felt safe but lonely. My children were grown, living their own lives scattered across the country. I spent my days working part-time at the local library in Portland, Oregon, and my evenings curled up with a book or a glass of wine. It was a quiet existence, one I told myself was enough. But in the quiet moments, when the house was too still and the shadows stretched long into the night, I admitted to myself that I missed being touched, noticed, and desired. I hadn't dated in years. My marriage had ended more than a decade ago after my husband, Tom, decided he was better suited for a younger woman. The betrayal had hurt, but even more, it had planted a dangerous seed of doubt in my mind. Maybe I told myself I was simply too old for passion. Too old for someone to look at me with that spark in their eyes. Too old to matter to a man in the way I once had. But fate has a way of showing up when you least expect it. It all started on a Thursday afternoon at the library. I was working at the circulation desk, sorting through the new arrivals cart, when a tall, broad-shouldered man approached. He wore a gray sweater and jeans, and there was a boyish charm in his smile despite the streaks of silver in his hair. "Excuse me," he said, his voice warm and low. "Do you have any recommendations for local history books?" I looked up, meeting his eyes, and for a moment something stirred in me, something I hadn't felt in years. "Sure," I said, forcing myself back into professional mode. "What kind of history are you interested in? Portland, or more general Oregon history?" He chuckled softly. "Honestly, I'll take anything. I just moved here a few months ago, and I'm trying to learn more about the place." I guided him through the shelves, pointing out a few titles I thought he might enjoy. As I spoke, I caught the way he listened, not with the absent-minded politeness most people offer, but with genuine interest. When he finally introduced himself as Daniel Brooks, I realized I was smiling in a way I hadn't in a long time. Over the weeks that followed, Daniel became a regular at the library. He always stopped by my desk to chat, sometimes with a new book to check out, sometimes just to say hello. We discovered we shared a love of classic films, long walks, and cooking. He was 50, divorced, and working remotely as a consultant. Bit by bit, our conversations stretched longer, lingering like a song you don't want to end. One evening, after I recommended a local diner that served the best clam chowder, he surprised me by saying, "How about you come with me? I'd rather not eat alone." My heart stuttered. It had been so long since a man had asked me to dinner. For a moment, I almost said no, the voice of insecurity whispering in my ear. But then, I reminded myself that life was too short to keep saying no to the things I secretly wanted. So I nodded and agreed. Dinner turned into laughter, shared stories, and a connection that felt effortless. Daniel was easy to be around. He didn't make me feel like I had to hide my age or pretend to be someone younger, fresher, or different. Still, there were moments when I caught him looking at me, and I wondered if he really saw me, or if he was just being kind. A few weeks later, during a walk along the waterfront, he suddenly stopped and turned to me. His expression was thoughtful, almost hesitant. "Linda," he said slowly, "I don't want to offend you, but you're older than the women I've dated in the past." The words cut me deeper than I expected. I froze, my stomach tightening, my old fears roaring back. He said I was too old, just like Tom had implied when he left me for someone younger. I wanted to turn and walk away, but before I could move, Daniel continued. "But you're also the most fascinating woman I've met in years. You're confident, intelligent, beautiful in ways that don't fade with time. Honestly," his voice softened, and he took a step closer. "I can't stop thinking about you. I can't keep my hands off you, Linda. Being with you feels real." The sincerity in his words melted the icy fear inside me. My heart thudded, and for the first time in so long I felt seen, not in spite of my age, but with it. I wasn't invisible. I was wanted. From that day forward, our relationship deepened. Daniel showed up at my door with flowers, just because he thought of me. He cooked dinner in my kitchen, filling the house with warmth and laughter. He held my hand in public, unashamed, as though daring the world to question us. The more time we spent together, the more I realized that age was nothing compared to the joy of finding someone who truly cherished you. Of course, it wasn't always easy. I struggled with insecurities, wondering if people whispered when they saw us together. Sometimes I caught my reflection in the mirror and compared myself to the women half my age. But Daniel never let me spiral too far. He'd brush a strand of hair from my face, kiss my forehead, and say, "Linda, you're exactly who I want." Don't let anyone, not even yourself, convince you otherwise. It wasn't just romance, it was companionship. We took road trips along the Oregon coast, stayed up late watching black and white movies, and shared mornings over coffee and bagels. He encouraged me to dream again, to write the memoir I'd always put off, to live boldly instead of shrinking into the shadows. One night, sitting together on my porch as the stars blinked overhead, Daniel turned to me with that mischievous smile I'd come to love. "You know," he said, "when I first told you that you were older than I usually date, I thought maybe I was being honest. But the truth is, you've ruined me for anyone else. You set the standard now. You've shown me what it feels like to really connect." Tears filled my eyes, not from sadness but from gratitude. Gratitude for the man who reminded me that love doesn't have an expiration date, that passion isn't reserved for the young, and that sometimes the best chapters of life begin when you least expect them. And so, when people ask if I ever thought I was too old for love, I smile and shake my head. Because Daniel proved that age is only a number. What really matters is the courage to open your heart, no matter how many years you've lived, and the willingness to believe that you are still worthy of being wanted, desired, and loved.